Beneath the sparkling fireworks and the echoing laughter of Main Street lies a corporate machine so vast and so protective of its image that it borders on the clinical. We are taught to see Disney as a beacon of childhood innocence, the place where dreams come true and magic is the primary currency. But if you peel back the layers of pixie dust and look into the cold, hard mechanics of the Walt Disney Company, you find a story that is less about fairy tales and more about ruthless consolidation, psychological manipulation, and a legal department that would make a mob boss blush. The happiest place on earth is also one of the most litigious, secretive, and calculated business entities in human history. To understand the dark side of Disney, you have to stop looking at the mouse and start looking at the shadow he casts. The magic didn't just happen, it was engineered. And for decades, the cost of maintaining that engineering has been paid in ways the public was never meant to see, from the systematic silencing of whistleblowers to the aggressive acquisition of every piece of our cultural childhood. Disney has moved from being a storyteller to being the owner of the story itself. This is the investigation into the business of enchantment and the heavy price of the kingdom. It starts with the concept of the Disney Vault. For years, Disney used a strategy of artificial scarcity to manipulate the market. They would release a classic film, let it sit on shelves for a few months, and then pull it back, claiming it was going into the vault for a decade. This wasn't about protecting the art, it was about psychological conditioning. They created a panic buyer culture, ensuring that parents felt a desperate need to own a piece of the magic before it disappeared. It was a masterclass in supply-side manipulation that treated their most loyal fans like marks in a long con. As the company grew, its hunger for control shifted from its own products to the entire landscape of entertainment. Think about the massive shifts of the last 20 years. Disney didn't just want to compete, they wanted to eliminate the competition by absorbing it. Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and finally 21st Century Fox. On paper, it looks like a series of brilliant business moves. In reality, it was the creation of a cultural monopoly. When one company owns the superheroes, the space operas, the animated classics, and the historical archives of a rival studio, they no longer have to worry about being the best. They only have to worry about being the only option. This level of consolidation has led to a homogenization of storytelling, where every movie follows the same formula, designed by a committee to maximize merchandise sales and theme park integration. The art is no longer the product, the art is the commercial for the real product. But the dark side of the business isn't just in what they buy, it's in how they protect what they own. Disney's legal department is legendary for its ferocity. There is an old joke in the legal world that if you are stranded on a deserted island, you should draw a Mickey Mouse in the sand, because someone from Disney will show up within the hour to sue you, and you can ask for a ride home. While it sounds like an exaggeration, the reality isn't far off. In the late 80s, Disney famously threatened legal action against 3 Florida daycare centers for having hand-painted murals of Mickey and Minnie on their walls. These were small, independent businesses trying to make a space look friendly for toddlers. Disney saw them as trademark infringers. They forced the daycares to paint over the characters. This wasn't a one-off event. It is a core part of their corporate DNA. They have spent millions of dollars lobbying for changes to copyright law, specifically the Copyright Term Extension Act, often mocked as the Mickey Mouse Protection Act. Every time the originally 1928 Steamboat Willie was about to enter the public domain, the laws suddenly changed. They didn't just play by the rules, they paid to rewrite them so they would never have to share. Then, there is the human cost within the parks themselves. The cast members, as Disney calls them, are the backbone of the experience. They are expected to maintain a level of forced enthusiasm that is almost eerie. But behind the smiles is a reality of low wages and grueling conditions. In Anaheim and Orlando, reports have circulated for years about employees living in their cars because they can't afford rent on a Disney salary. There is a profound irony in a company that generates billions in profit while its frontline workers struggle to meet basic needs. The company uses the prestige of working for Disney as a form of leverage. They know there is a line of people out the door willing to take the job just for the name, which allows them to keep labor costs low, while the cost of a park ticket skyrockets. The obsession with image goes even deeper into the morbid. There is a long-standing urban legend that no one is ever declared dead on Disney property. While that is technically a matter of legal jurisdiction, only a doctor or a coroner can officially pronounce a death. The way Disney handles emergencies is designed to keep the illusion of safety and happiness intact at all costs. There have been numerous incidents where the company's first instinct was not transparency, but containment. Whether it's an industrial accident behind the scenes or a tragic mishap on a ride, the corporate machine moves instantly to manage the narrative. They don't just want to be the happiest place on Earth. They want to be a place where the reality of human suffering doesn't exist. This clinical approach to tragedy is part of a larger strategy of psychological architecture. Disney employs Imagineers who are experts in forced perspective and color theory, but they also use these skills to manipulate guest behavior. The smell of popcorn isn't just coming from the carts. It's often pumped through vents to trigger hunger. The walkways are designed to funnel you toward gift shops. The lines are built with winding patterns to hide exactly how long you've been waiting, using small psychological wins to keep you from leaving. It's an environment designed to bypass your logical brain and go straight for your wallet. It's an addiction disguised as a vacation. But perhaps the darkest chapter in the modern Disney saga is their relationship with global politics. For a company that markets itself on American values and freedom, they have shown a startling willingness to compromise those values to access foreign markets. We've seen them thank government entities in regions associated with human rights abuses in their film credits. We've seen them edit movies to remove characters or themes that might offend censors in lucrative territories. It reveals a cold truth. The values Disney promotes are only applicable when they don't interfere with the bottom line. They are a stateless superpower that uses the language of emotion to mask a strategy of total market dominance. The shift from Walt's original vision to the modern corporate behemoth is a cautionary tale of what happens when a creative spark is fed into a high-efficiency furnace. Walt Disney himself was a complicated man, often described as a demanding and sometimes visionary tyrant, but he cared about the craft. The modern iteration of his company cares about the metrics. They care about the quarterly earnings call. They care about ensuring that every child on the planet is exposed to their intellectual property before they can even speak. Even the way they handle their own history is a form of corporate gaslighting. Disney is notorious for trying to scrub its less savory past from the public record. Films that are now considered culturally insensitive are locked away, not out of a sense of genuine apology, but to avoid brand damage. They don't want to have a conversation about how they've changed. They want to pretend they were always perfect. This refusal to acknowledge the complexity of their own history is part of why the dark side feels so heavy. When you demand perfection and absolute control over your narrative, any crack in the armor looks like a crater. Consider the case of the Reedy Creek Improvement District. For decades, Disney essentially operated as its own government in Florida. They had the power to build their own roads, manage their own waste, and even authorize the construction of a nuclear power plant if they wanted to. This wasn't just a business park, it was a private state. While it allowed for the rapid development of Walt Disney World, it also created a precedent where a corporation could bypass the democratic oversight that every other business has to follow. When that power was finally challenged in recent years, the resulting legal and political firestorm showed just how much Disney views itself as an entity that exists above the normal rules of society. They didn't just want a place to build rides, they wanted a kingdom where they were the ultimate authority. The reality of Disney is that it is a business that sells nostalgia. It sells the feeling of being a child again, a time when things were simple and good always won. But the people selling that feeling are some of the most sophisticated corporate operators on the planet. They understand that if they can capture the imagination of a child, they have a customer for life, and they will use every legal, psychological, and financial tool at their disposal to ensure that cycle never breaks. We see this in the way they've expanded into every facet of life. It's not just movies and parks anymore. It's cruise lines, residential, communities, and streaming services that track every second of your viewing habits. They are building a cradle-to-grave ecosystem where every emotional milestone in your life is branded with a Disney logo. There is also the issue of creative stagnation. By buying up every major franchise, Disney has effectively throttled original storytelling in Hollywood. When you own the biggest pieces of the pie, you don't need to take risks on new ideas. You just need to keep mining the existing ones until they are dry. This greed has led to a cinematic landscape filled with remakes, sequels, and spin-offs that feel more like financial the products than artistic expressions. The soul of the company has been replaced by an algorithm that prioritizes brand safety over creative courage. This isn't just bad for movies, it's bad for our culture. We are being fed a diet of recycled memories because it's safer for the stock price. Furthermore, let's look at the predatory nature of their pricing models. Over the last decade, the cost of visiting a Disney park has outpaced inflation by a massive margin. They have introduced complex systems like Lightning Lane and Genie Plus, which essentially turn the park experience into a pay-to-win game. Families who have saved for years to afford a trip find themselves nickeled and dimed at every turn, forced to spend their entire vacation staring at a smartphone app just to stand in a shorter line. It has turned what was once a middle-class rite of passage into a luxury experience reserved for the elite. While still marketing itself as a place for everyone, the gap between the marketing and the reality is growing wider every year. Even the environmental impact of such a massive operation is often swept under the rug. Maintaining a pristine, artificial environment in the middle of a swamp or a desert requires an incredible amount of resources. The waste generated by millions of visitors, the energy required to run high-tech attractions 24 hours a day, and the environmental footprint of a global shipping network for merchandise all contradict the image of a company that cares about the future. While they make grand announcements about sustainability, the sheer scale of their consumerism-driven business model makes true environmental responsibility almost impossible. The darkness of Disney isn't found in one single scandal, but in the cumulative weight of their influence. It's in the way they've turned childhood into a commodity. It's in the way they've used their legal power to bully small creators. It's in the way they've prioritized profit over the well-being of their workers and the integrity of their stories. They have become a cultural monolith that is too big to fail and too powerful to criticize without consequences. So, the next time you see those iconic ears or hear that familiar theme song, remember that you aren't just looking at a cartoon. You are looking at the face of a company that has redefined the laws of ownership, the standards of labor, and the very way we perceive reality. The magic is real, but it's the kind of magic that comes with a very long, very expensive contract. The kingdom is beautiful, but the walls are high, and the guards are always watching. Disney didn't just build a theme park, they built a system of total cultural immersion that is almost impossible to escape. They have mastered the art of making us love our own captivity, one blockbuster at a time. Is the magic worth the cost? That's a question every consumer has to answer. But as the company continues to grow, buying up more of our stories and tightening its grip on the global market, we have to wonder where the fantasy ends and the monopoly begins. After all, in a world where one company owns our dreams, who is left to tell the truth? The mouse is always smiling, but if you look closely at the eyes, you'll see the reflection of a boardroom, not a wishing star. The story of Disney is the story of how enchantment became an industry and how innocence was packaged, sold, and protected by an army of lawyers. It is the ultimate dark business story because it hides in plain sight, wrapped in a bow, and topped with a smile. What do you think is the most unsettling thing Disney has ever done? Is it the legal bullying, the worker conditions, or the cultural monopoly? Let me know in the comments. We read every single one. If you want more deep dives into the shadows of the world's biggest corporations, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the stories you're told.